Hello, I'm Rob Pires.
Grassroots coach Manisha Taylor.
Christian Carambeu.
Matt Hodgson, director of the 4-year plan.
I'm Rob Lusher.
Dave McLaughlin.
Andy Copeland from the Glemnet Southern Amateur League.
Philip Wick, I'm CEO of 14.
Former chairman of Ibis FC.
Chairman of Alexandra Park FC.
And you're watching
Pitch Talk.
Pitch Talk.
The only place to get your Monday night footballing fix.
The pitch is where we eat.
The pitch is where we sleep.
And the pitch is where we talk. Make sure you join the revolution, the football revolution.
Girls on the Ball is our next segment. How did Girls on the Ball start? Where did the idea come from? And how long has the concept been going for?
It's probably all stemmed from that game at Wembley in London 2012. 70,000 people, Team GB against Brazil, Steph Houghton scoring. And we just suddenly thought, wow, there is such an interest. And we went online and we couldn't really find, we had the top league and there was a bit about them, but anything below that, there just was quite a lack of information. So it originally started off as a more broad women in sport thing, and then we were like, hang on, we don't have that much time. So we love football, it's our favourite game. Why don't we just focus on that first and see where that goes?
Yeah, it was meant to be a tester site to see if there was any appetite for it.
Yeah.
So we were on holiday and we just set up the site, and it just suddenly took off. I don't even know what happened. Before we knew it, it just taken off and became bigger than we ever thought it would be, I think. I mean, we were planning to go to maybe a few matches. Now we're like, when the season's on, we go to 5 matches a week. And you're just like, how did we go from there to here? No, it's because we love it, but it's just quite strange how it happens.
And with there being a summer and winter league, it means we can always go to football. It never stops. So when the FAWSL season's off, we try and, you know, we've done a couple of interviews this season with some teams like QPR and stuff like that. Because
try and go lower down, and watch the games down there.
Combination, FA Cup, FAWPL, to kind of pick and choose where to go.
How easy is it to get tickets for the women's game? We're going kind of off the beaten track in terms of questions, but how easy is it to get tickets for the women's game?
Easy, really easy. It's what probably you pay most £6 a game, and you just walk up to the gate and get them.
Even some of the lower
It's
teams.
such a good hobby to have, in the sense that if you're watching the men's game, you pay 60 quid a ticket. If you go to watch a women's game, that's why we can do it, because we do travel a lot, but at the end of the day, actually watching the game is not an expensive thing at all.
But even lower down, it gets cheaper, you know.
So they're free.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And there's more than likely a team near you. If you're looking for something to do on a Sunday, it's, you know.
And the quality of football is seriously high. Like even down the levels,
it's growing. You really do notice.
Yeah, some very, very good talent out there. So
the wheels are turning in my head as we speak. Got the two co-hosts there as well.
The other thing is that it's so accessible as well. So like interviewing players or chatting to players, they're so willing to get involved with you and interact with their fans. It's not like they're not protected like the men are, or they don't have that same attitude. They really want to interact and everything, so it makes it so easy.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, I found, I think it was the back end of 2012 with at a Words of Colour event where I had the pleasure of meeting Rachel Yankee, and she was just she was so gregarious, and it's just refreshing. It's actually refreshing to see that, whereas a lot of the male players are very much kind of guarded. I mean, I bumped into Robin van Persie in Westfield, and he was perfectly cool. But on a general basis, you get kind of that, not necessarily standoffishness, but it's kind of like, I don't really want to get into anything compromising or say anything compromising or anything like that. But,
you could be standing on the side of the pitch, basically, watching international players play.
And after the game, especially if you go to a few, they begin to recognise you and know who you are, and they're very, very, very willing to come over and have a little chin wag about everything.
I hear that. Makes me got to drop on a obligatory wrestler reference. Sounds like the women's game is kind of like the ECW of football, where it's that real grassroots kind of feel, which I think the game kind of lacks a lot. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that.
I do. I hope it never loses it. I don't think it will, because I think the women are still really appreciative of what their fans do as well. I mean, they don't have 30,000 people in a stadium, but they really appreciate the people who come along and support them every week. I also think they probably aren't sort of surrounded by the same environment as the men, so it makes them more open to be able to chat to you and not so guarded. And they do, I mean, they begin to trust you, I guess.
Yeah, but it's also refreshing. I mean, they play for the love of the game. They don't play for the lifestyle. They don't play for the perks. You know, not that I'm saying all men do, but I mean, when you think I want to be a footballer, there's a lot more that goes with it as a male than there is with the female. When the women play, you know, some of them are deciding that I'm going to have to work 2-3 jobs so that I can play football, you know, and it's refreshing to see that, because you can tell that it means so much to them.
And also when it comes to international football now in the men's game, it's all about clubs, and international football, a lot of them pull out for the friendlies. They don't feel like it's their main thing in their career, whereas the women, they would absolutely give anything to play for their country. It's the most important honour to them still, and it's really nice to see. It's a real good passion that they have.
I think that needs to be brought back. That definitely needs to be brought back in the men's game. It's definitely a huge problem, and I think it's just because of the pointless friendlies that are set up. It's kind of diluted the meaning of it. But getting back on topic, actually. First Pitch Talk fan question, and it's from Russell Vernon via email. He says, "Hi Sophie and Rachel. Firstly, what I would like to know is, how did you start getting into working in football? And secondly, out of all the interviews you've done so far, which one did you like the best and why? Keep up all the hard work, Russ Vernon."
I think getting into working in it, I suppose we kind of covered in a sense. It is technically a hobby. But I suppose it built with the more people that followed us, the more, you know, appetite there was for Twitter feeds and stuff like that, the more we decided to do. And obviously we love it so much, we'll happily go to as many games as we can. Best interview is a difficult one.
I would have to say, I've loved all the interviews we've done, but I'd have to say Mark Sampson. Because it was he's the new England boss. Yeah. And he just came across so lovely in his, in his answers to the questions that we asked him, and really down to earth, and really, you could tell the excitement and passion he had for his new job. It's my favourite one, I think.
It's difficult for me because we have done quite a few and everyone's been really open to doing them as well. We did interview Gilly Flaherty on the phone for She Kicks, and that was fun. Just because it's different. A lot of the time we do our interviews via email and stuff like that, just because it's more convenient for them. But that was, it was fun doing an interview over the phone with the two of us trying to talk to her, and you know, I enjoyed that.
Pickles.
And again, she's really open and willing to chat, which is nice.
Oh, that's good stuff. Oh, that's good stuff. A question from Manisha Taylor. She asked via WhatsApp. How do you manage work and other commitments and be so committed to attending matches?
I think lack of sleep is probably first thing. I mean, some nights we can be up to 2 a.m. doing the website, doing things. I think I'm lucky in that my work really understands as well, and I have my manager who really knows how much my football means to me and how I couldn't really do my work without my football, and vice versa, I think. But it is sometimes tough, especially I think the first time, not the first time, but the time I really realised we were completely bonkers was when we went to watch Glasgow City play in the Champions League in Belgium, and we drove over there and then drove back, and we were driving back at 5 o'clock in the morning, And then me realising that I had to be in work at 8 o'clock the next day.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, this is just nuts.
I need Red Bull.
I've gone absolutely mad. It's gone too far. But
For me, it's slightly different because last year, during our first year, I was doing a master's. I was doing a part-time and I was working in retail. And again, I had a very understanding manager who's now become a very good friend. So he kind of understood when I'd I worked my days around football. And then I had numerous months off while I wrote my thesis. So that helped in terms of going to various long matches and long days and that kind of thing. I've just started a new job now. So I think they're slowly starting to realise just how mad we are. I think it'll become a shock when we start going to various countries during the summer for the World Cup qualifiers. I mentioned Ukraine to my manager the other day, and she said she wasn't going to sign off on it.
So I'm not going to sign off on it. You ain't stopping me going. Just be what was ultimatums. Well, if you go, then you might not have a job to come back to. I'm prepared to take that risk.
I think it was more a fear of what would happen if we went to the Ukraine.
My boss, she was seriously worried when the FAWSL season stopped in November. She thought I wouldn't know what to do with myself. And that shows that she understands how
And we were like, don't worry, there's plenty more football on. We can keep going.
It's like, do you want extra hours? You can have extra hours to fill the time. We don't want you going crazy. You've mentioned about Twitter, especially in terms of helping develop Girls on the Ball. How important have Twitter and Facebook been to Girls on the Ball, and what's been your experience using those platforms?
Twitter is probably a vital tool. We wouldn't survive without it. It's not that Facebook's not important, but it's certainly more important to what we try and deliver.
so instant.
Yeah, it's so easy to do live feeds, so people can literally read the game as it's happening. I think it's the next best thing to having a video feed. So it's definitely absolutely vital.
Although we do have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, is that anyone can say whatever they want on Twitter. So, but that comes with the
territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of controversy recently with Stan Collymore, especially that kind of controversy with him, that anyone can say anything, and kind of because it's him kind of coming out against it, people are justifying it. But
definitely had our own experiences of that. So.
Has most of the experience been positive, or is it just every now and then you get kind of a bad
rare.
apple?
I just think because we do it in our spare time and for the love of the game, it just hurts more. That's the thing. I suppose if it was something we were doing and we were being paid for and we were, it was full time, and it would probably be something we could say, okay, that's fine, accept it and move on. But I suppose when it's something that we do purely because we love it and we do it to the best of our ability, I suppose it just...
But I think the fact that the rare instances are highlighted so much in our minds is because it's rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, the overwhelming support is amazing. It's like when we were at Cyprus last week and we just got tweets and tweets, and it was just phenomenal. You didn't really expect that.
We're going to ask you about Cyprus, because that's quite an interesting one. But in terms of, coming back just to Twitter briefly, Have you found the same, because obviously we did similar sort of things with like live match updates and that. Have you found that people are a lot more willing and a lot quicker to criticise for a mistake you make rather than praise for something you've done right?
I wouldn't say people do praise us, I think, but
they do.
But they're a lot quicker to pick up on mistakes, and not many people do it, I have to say. I don't want to kind of tar everyone with the same brush, but we don't make mistakes very often, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but in terms of spelling, I don't like the kind of mistakes we can make are generally spelling mistakes, or we get the wrong player.
Yeah.
They're not massive, like that's the kind of mistakes that might happen, but yeah, it's like
people do pick
instant.
Yeah, because you do. I guess sometimes, because we have the same issue where it's because you're trying to get stuff out so quick, you're trying to beat others to the punch. It's kind of,
and also
every now and then things are getting
autocorrect can be a bit of a pain sometimes.
Yeah. Oh God! Even on a phone as well, especially on the phones, it's like, oh Damn, I didn't
We
want to send
said
out
something.
correction.
We had some funny comment going when we were driving to a match, talking about sheep in a field, and it started some conversation about sheep. Right, it was really random, right? So it was funny. And then we got to the game, and we were like, right, enough sleeping around.
I meant sheeping around. Not sleeping around.
Some mistakes you try and avoid with autocorrect.
I thought, in all honesty, I thought that was going to go down the Welsh route, but I'm glad it did. I'm glad it didn't. For all the Welsh people out there, I'm glad it didn't. I've been mocking Gareth Bale on shows enough, so it's like I've ruined a particular wrestler's theme tune for Gerald because of mocking Gareth Bale. But
I mean, we couldn't do anything without our Twit fam, as we like to call them. They are pretty awesome, and the support they have given us is amazing. I mean, 99% of them are absolutely brilliant.
That's the thing. When you do that, get that 1% negative comment or whatever, like we don't even need to say anything. They just unleash, and the support is always, as crap as it is to get someone to say something not nice, then you end up getting all the people,
nice stuff,
protecting you essentially, and that's nice.
It's nice.
you become very well known in women's football. I mean, even scoring a spot on one of Arsenal ladies players, Alex Scott's video diaries, which is very interesting. Back in 2013, have you found it easy to get interviews and get closer to the women's game? I know you've mentioned in part, but
can we just say about that video with Alex Scott?
yeah, shoot.
We actually said an awful lot more than what was on the video, yet because we ended up talking a bit about Sweden, the FA decided to cut that bit out, so we just looked like we were going, yeah, to everything. Whereas we did actually have stuff to say, it just got edited, it got lost in editing.
And we just looked like we just said yes all the time.
Don't shoot the editors. That's all I can say. Do not shoot the editors. I'd be 12 feet under if that was the case.
But I think once people know who we are and they know, maybe not to look at, but they know that we are going to most games and that we put in, not to blow our own trumpet, we put in a pretty huge effort. Mm-hmm. And I think the players are so willing to come and chat to you about that. Mm-hmm. And I think that just starts everything off. And yeah, people are willing, they want their game to be known. And the more interviews they get with people like us and other people like us, I mean, it's amazing for them. Because it just takes it up to a whole new level, I guess.
I think as well, we do have quite a specific following group on Twitter. So even though we might not have as many as some other accounts, we do find that we'll get other accounts with bigger followings asking us to tweet things for them because we're quite a focused group. And
we also interact a lot with our Twit fam. Yeah, so I mean, most of them are really responsive. Mm-hmm. So if you look at our followers, we interact a lot with them, and I think that makes them closer in a way.
But also the players know then who we're doing interviews for. We're doing interviews for people that are really interested in what they're saying. So, and I think, as Soph said, they do appreciate the time that we put into it. But, as I said, we love it. So it doesn't really, we don't really see it like that. I think as well they trust that, we're not going to do anything with it, and,
they know that we love the game and that we wouldn't do anything to jeopardise their position in it. So I think. So
at least one that was where, because from our perspective, we can see there's journalistic integrity, which sadly seems to be fleeting with the parasitic media, as I like to call them. Obviously, from what you do, it's kind of like you're not trying to take people down. You're trying to build people up rather than. And
while we might not know them that well, there is that element of trust there that they know we're not going to do something negative with it.
Not going to sell the story to certain newspapers. Yeah, look what happened there. Yeah. So, another question that we wanted to ask is, how many grounds have you been to in the FAWSL? And of those you haven't been to, which would you most like to visit?
In the FAWSL, we've been to all of them.
We've been to all of them, yeah. WSL 2, we probably haven't been to half of them, I think. So we haven't been to the other half. But that's because they were all in the WPL or lower, or they didn't exist. So, we got a bit more to do. But of the top 8, the top WSL one, we've done all of them.
I mean, we want to go to all of them. There's no question about it. We'd like to go to as many as we possibly can. It is always nice going to new ground. And that's what's nice about when we do when the WSL season is off, there's a lot more teams to see that we haven't seen before, which is always nice. And we do try and take in a new team each week, regardless of what kind of league it's in. We kind of aim to try and see a team we haven't seen before.
How many FAWSL matches have you attended? If you could put a number on it.
We have a number of matches we attended last year, but that includes
from the end last week of February to I think it was November last year, we covered about 88 to 90 games.
But that includes international, continental, it covers.
But I think it was in the 40s or 50s for FAWSL games.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but yeah, it was. We'd done a lot. Even we were surprised how much we'd done. At the end of it, we made a little list, and we were just like, "Wow, where did that come from?"
Yeah, she's weird in that she can practically remember every game and goals and stuff. I mean, I can remember goals, but like, if you say she doesn't use a calendar like a normal person. She uses it based on what matches are when.
I know the date by fixtures. Yeah. A little bit mad.
Basing the calendar around football, I will admit I do kind of the same thing. Especially around Saturdays. It's kind of one of them ones, but that's kind of due to playing for an amateur side. But
this is like months in advance though. She'll ask me a date and I'm like, we're going to Belarus.
It's like, we're going for that game. What else is on that day? Nothing. Nothing is up. I was also going to ask, how many England matches have you been to, and how many international grounds and tournaments have you been to?
So we've done the Cyprus Cup twice now, and we were in Sweden last year.
Women's Euros, under 17s.
Yeah, the under 17s, the under 19s in Wales last year. I'm still trying to look at maybe getting out to a bit of the under 20s this year, but it's in Canada, and because we're in Canada next year for the World Cup, it's pricey, and I want to save my holidays as well. No. But we're just I mean, since the Olympics, it's just been everything we can possibly get to.
We've been to some dodgy grounds and random places like Sardinia. That was a bit of an odd ground.
Yeah.
Turkey was an interesting one. We went to, that was in Adana, which is southeast, so it's about 90 miles from the Syrian border. That was something we had to check with the FA before we went as well, if that was still going ahead. Yeah. But that was an interesting one because it was all men, first of all, which I didn't know whether there would be a lot of people there, first of all. There was more than I thought there would be. There was only 5 England fans. And they moved us to the VIP section of the ground, which were really old office chairs, concrete, like stuck in the concrete. But like we were given like this special treatment where we got to
sit on old office chairs.
Yeah, that was a funny ground. And the call prayer happened
4 times.
Yeah, I thought it happened like 5 times during the day, but it went off at least 3 times during the match. Wow. So that was an interesting experience.
That was, yeah.
So was that stopping the match? So stopping the match to pray?
No, it just carried on throughout. But it was just a little bit surreal.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Wait, how was the 2014 Cyprus Cup? What was it like being out there?
Compared to last year, it was much more enjoyable because we had friends out there this time round. So we really enjoyed that. And we got to a lot more games as well than we did last time, didn't we? I think we covered more.
Yeah, we did. 7 games this year, whereas we only did 4, I think, last year. And we made sure we stayed for the final day as well, which last year we had to get back to work, so it was a problem. It was amazing though. I think it's probably one of the most exhausting holidays I've ever been on. Yeah. But we were doing things non-stop.
We came back needing a holiday.
Yeah. And instead moved house. Yeah. But it's a lovely little tournament. Like the players have an off day on the Saturday, and you could just be in Larnaca, and they'll just be wandering around, and they're so happy to just come up and chat to you. It was absolutely
to get to sip a few brewskis with the players.
No, but
it's very strict during a tournament.
Yeah. No, but it's just a really relaxed atmosphere, and I think because it's pre-season as well, everyone's just loving the time out there and the time in the sun as well. It's nice.
Oh, that's good stuff.
It's a really nice little tournament. It's a shame the men don't do something similar because it's a great way of of getting together.
It's a very good bonding trip for an international team, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky that my aunt lives out there, so we had accommodation sorted.
Yeah.
Which is always the nice thing about the Cyprus Cup.
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned that will be good for the men's game, because I've been reading Robbie Fowler's book recently, and he's been, and in that he says, oh yeah, the England team hasn't really got that camaraderie anymore. And I think that book was done in like 2004. So you can only imagine 10 years later how...
I think you can really tell that the girls really like being in each other's company.
Yeah.
They love being away for international weeks. It's a really nice thing to see. And they all seem to be, especially now I think with the regime change, she sounds like a king or something, but it's all got a lot more happier.
Yeah, the atmosphere has changed slightly. I mean, they were still a very tight-knit group, but there's definitely the welcoming back of certain players has really boosted it even more. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, so there's none of the kind of cliques and politicking.
No, you don't.
No, it's not like that. They all seem to just get on, really, from what we can tell.
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. Another question from Manisha Taylor via WhatsApp. What's the most memorable match you've watched?
Team GB is still...
Yeah, that game at Wembley, just because there was I think the occasion, there were so many people. I can still hear that roar that goes up when Steph scores, and it just sends a little bit of shivers down my spine.
Yeah. I don't think I'll ever hear a roar that big at a women's game again, to be totally honest.
I think if I was to pick another one apart from that game, it would be when we went to watch Arsenal in the Champions League in Potsdam.
Oh God.
And Arsenal were 3-0 up at half time and looked like they were cruising, and within 10 minutes of the second half, Potsdam scored 2 goals, and we were like...
I was ready to leave the stadium. I was like, I'll meet you in the pub outside. I can't watch the end of this.
It was the most nerve-wracking experience ever, but actually the most enjoyable as well. And then they came through and won 4-3, but it was one of the best games of football, I think, just for drama.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, what is the most rewarding thing about being girls on the ball and doing what you do?
I think any time we get somebody thanking us for covering a game, even though we get that quite a lot, it is nice to know that what we're doing is actually to know that someone at home is sitting there being able to follow a game, which if we weren't there, they wouldn't necessarily be able to do that. I find that quite rewarding.
I think also the fact that I think we've definitely seen in our group of friends anyway, they come more often to games with us. And I wouldn't say that we've driven it, but it's nice to have been a part of that and have maybe helped persuade them to come out more often and watch a game of football that they might not have otherwise done.
Well, I suppose as well, you know, there's kind of a group of friends has formed as well, so maybe when they didn't want to go to a match because maybe they're on their own, now there's kind of a nice group of people that there's always somebody there that someone's going to know. You know what I mean? And it just means more people are going, and that's the thing about Twitter, is that you'll get people saying, oh, we'll come and say hi, and you know, and some of those have turned into real friendships, which is really nice.
And if you take like Cyprus, we made an effort to try and get all the fans together over there. We didn't really have to do much, but I mean, just with using us as a base and setting up a Facebook page, you can sort of get everyone together and come and have a drink, and you know, it's just a nice way of being able to. Otherwise, if you're on your own, you don't really know how to collect with people. I mean,
I know one girl when we were in Sweden came on her own, and we met up with her through She Kicks had set up a Facebook group, and she kind of met up with us, and now like I consider her a really close friend. And like within the space of 6 months, just through football, we've made some really, really good friendships.
Yeah.
In terms of promo, especially shameless self-promo, which I am very much an exponent of, how important do you think it is to be kind of a shameless self-promoter when you're kind of building something up?
I think it's something we probably are learning.
We need to be better at, I think.
I mean, before, I think, especially since I started Girls on the Ball, my confidence has grown a lot. But before that, I definitely wouldn't have been one to stand out and say, look at me. But I think with Girls on the Ball, I mean, people know we're out there. They know they can come and find us, and that we're very willing to chat football with them. And it is really important to grow us as a base of football.
We want this to be a full-time thing. Like, we have various plans we want to pursue and make it a real thing. So in that sense, to grow that, we're going to have to be a bit more proactive with self-promotion. But at the moment, things like this are purely just so people know who we are and that we're there, and if they want to come and talk to us. You know, we do have small things that, you know, we gave away stress balls and wristbands and pens and stuff like that, but
I've got them flying around my office. The boys throw them at each other. But yeah, just little things like that. It is important. People then realise, they just look at it and they suddenly realise girls on the ball, and it just brings it to the forefront of people's mind, I think. Definitely.
I like that. It's one of them shameless self-promotion. It's not all bad. We have a video question from our co-host, the G-Man.
Of your journey so far with Girls on the Ball, what has been your highest achievement and what has been your most testing time?
And also, there's another part to that question, actually, because Samir Sawney, as you'll know very well, he was actually one of our last Pitch Talk Meets guests. Samir Sawney via Facebook asked, what is the biggest challenge the girls have faced to date in their Girls on the Ball journey, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, I'm trying to think of the biggest achievement is probably being nominated, I think, for Football Blogging Award. That was pretty cool. Yeah. We were the only blog that focused on women's football to be nominated. So we went to 2 award ceremonies last year, which was, I mean, the FA Awards, we were invited by Continental, not by, you know, anybody else. I think there was a bit of confusion over that, some people thinking that players missed out because of us, but that actually wasn't the case. It just meant that there were a few less business people there than
oh, good. Get the corporates out of the game.
Well, we were sat at a corporate table. We were sat at the Continental table. We didn't take any players' space. I just like to put that out there, you know. So that was a big highlight, to get that recognition from Continental, and also I think our auction was a
we ran an auction for our first birthday. As part of my work, I work on a project in South Africa, and I went over in October, and they put on a girls' football match for me, and because I'd kind of asked them to do it, and we raised £600 through Twitter, through auction
all the clubs.
items.
Yeah, all the clubs gave us bits and bobs.
And I think that was pretty awesome when I handed them a check, and I was like,
And also, Continental got wind of this and just sent us an email saying, we're going to send you 30 footballs to send over to the project. And when we got that write-up about the project with the kids, you know, using the footballs and knowing where that money was going was a big achievement. The most difficult, in terms of a single event, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean,
trying to get to matches on time.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest.
Yeah, we have some good stories about that.
Oh. Going up to Liverpool one day for a Champions League game in Anfield. FA Cup in Anfield. And
did you go by coach or by train?
We went by car, and we left at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. The match was at
7:45, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and we missed the first half because it took us that long to get up.
Rachel drove 7.5 hours up, and we saw 45 minutes of football, and then came straight back down again.
This is the problem with the M6. It is the worst road out there. There is always something wrong on it.
It's such a long road as well.
And it's always the last bit of our journey. When we get through the toll bridge, we've got like maybe 90 miles left.
Yeah.
It's the worst part.
But I mean, it hasn't really been difficult. I mean, we love it, and yeah, I feel not very good in work sometimes because I'm tired.
Just one day, just being knackered.
You just want to go to bed, but at the same time, it's what drives us, I think, and we get through it, and it's all worth it. Definitely worth it. The positives are so much better than the negatives.
Most of the things are getting, like when we went to Turkey, we had to take an internal flight, so we had to go from Istanbul, and we were chilling waiting for the flight to Adana, and went to check the board, and it was delayed by an hour and a half, and meant we would have missed the match, which was the whole reason we went to Turkey.
Yeah.
So there was some mild panic about that, and running through the airports, and we had to buy a new flight, which was leaving then. So it cost £30, it was ridiculous, but like literally ran to the gate and one of the last people on the plane.
But they really are the biggest kind of challenges.
It's exciting. I think we sometimes feel that any travel catastrophe always seems to happen to us, but I think when you travel so much, you're bound to get these issues.
Are there any kind of coping strategies that you've got in terms of long journeys? Because you travel a lot, it's kind of...
The late night Heart show on the way back.
The late night?
On Heart.
Oh yeah, we listen to late night Heart.
On the way back home.
Yeah, we listen to Heart. We do have some random,
We tried playing games, but then we got really bored.
Yeah.
I think we just talk.
Yeah, we talk about football. We talk about the match, we dissect the match afterwards. That tends to take a while.
Yeah.
Share the driving.
I can go on for about 3 hours, so...
we need to get that recorded. Women's football, especially the WSL, has been praised by a lot of people for its kind of family-orientated atmosphere. And we've seen a lot of children and younger fans at games, but what do you think is the reason for the family atmosphere? Is it the way the women's game has been marketed, the cheaper ticket prices, or is there another reason in there?
It's probably a combination. I think the cheaper ticket prices definitely helps. It's a family day out. I think, especially with younger kids, they don't necessarily know the difference between high-profile men's football and a women's game. They could be going to see Birmingham play, and they're going to see Birmingham play because that's exciting. So it's a very, the way it's marketed.
I also think when you're actually there, it's a much nicer atmosphere in the sense that it's less volatile and it's less rude. People don't shout obscenities at players. You can also stand with opposing fans, whereas in the men's game you're sat in opposite ends.
I was going to say, there's certain clubs that you can never sit in with the opposing fans.
Well, sometimes when we've gone to men's games, I'm genuinely uncomfortable sitting around the people I'm sitting around because they're just so obscene and so volatile and aggressive. Whereas in the women's game, it's so relaxed and people just are there to watch good football.
And you can be there with whoever you want to be there with, and you can just mix. It doesn't matter.
Plus, there's the excitement of the kids probably getting to meet the players after the match, which doesn't happen very in the men's game. So. Yeah.
I was going to say the only time you really get that in the men's game is kind of after those friendlies, like say. There was one my little brother went to years back. I think our co-host, the G-Man, and his little brother went to it. I think it was it Nigeria, Republic of Ireland, Gav? Was it? Yeah. I think it was that already, but because I think my little brother was at the same game, and because my little brother came back. How long ago? That must have been about. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, or something like that. Yeah. And my little brother came back really late, and my mum was worried about it. And I'm just like, he's with his mate. Don't worry about it. They're probably just waiting for autographs after. Comes back, I got my football side. Yeah. It's like, see, I told you. Look, that's what it was. But obviously, you don't get that often enough anymore. I mean, because I live near Brentford Football Club, and there have been times where I've come back from my matches and just seen the away coaches out there, but there's not really that many people out there kind of waiting for autographs and that, which is, I think that's another thing that's kind of lost in terms of the kind of grassroots appeal of the men's game anyway. I mean, is it completely the reverse in the women's game then?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that Croatia game, England played Croatia, and they won, 3-0 or something? I think the girls some of them anyway, were out for almost an hour after the game, making sure they signed everything for all the people that were still waiting. That's the kind of commitment they have.
But I also think probably the men's game has a lot of fear around it, maybe, because it's now such a rivalry between clubs, and they don't want to put themselves in positions where they might get abused or attacked.
Do you think the media is to blame for that?
I think, it's got a huge part to play in that rivalry. I mean, I remember reading Harry Redknapp's book, and he said when he was a kid, you'd go and have a bit of banter in the stands, and then you'd be in the pub having a beer, talking over it with the opposing fans, and it wasn't a problem. Whereas now, you can't do that. Whereas in women's football, you don't have that issue. I mean, we can quite happily go into the bar at Arsenal's ground, say, and they'll all be eating their food afterwards, and you can go and sit and have a chat with them. I
think as well, the use of social media is another big thing, because things can get out there like instantly, and everyone's got a camera phone, and so it's kind of understandable. There's a bit more of a barrier between men's football.
But I think the women's game use social media a lot more than the men's game, and they use it to a lot better degree, and they really use it to interact with their fans. Whereas I don't feel that you get the same interaction from the men's side.
Well, I guess you get some players in the men's game who just use it to take the mickey out of other people. Piers Morgan being a great example, a great and worst example at the same time. And you get Joey Barton with his pearls of randomness. I can't call it wisdom, but yeah.
Or Abramovich, did you see that Twitter conversation?
No, I didn't.
Where like people were asking genuine questions and everything finished with, "It's fine, just be Zlatan."
Oh my God.
What did you get your girlfriend for her birthday? Nothing. She has Zlatan. It was a real kind of.
We had some real funny ones. #Dare to Zlatan and #Ask Carrick. Brilliant. Just comedy gold. It's like, So every now and then you get absolute comedy gold, but most of it is because of taking the mickey out of the players. But those are gonna live long in the memory. Just like Delia Smith's rant. It's funny stuff. Jersey Fizzle off camera is just like, why are you talking about Delia?
Why not?
We had this discussion on the recent Pitch Talk show with the Donny Rovers Bells controversy, we'll call it that. Do you think that kind of controversy could potentially hurt the image of the women's game whilst it's still somewhat in its embryonic phases? In terms of the FAWSL, that is embryonic.
I think it's something that should have been handled better. I think it's something that the FA are probably going to learn from, because while Doncaster Rovers, I understand they didn't meet the criteria, the way it was handled was very poor, and mistakes like that can damage the game. However, whether they'll make those kind of mistakes again, seeing the fallout, is another question.
I think the FAWSL is very much a learning curve for everyone involved because it's new. I mean, it's 3 years in, but it's still a very new concept, and they're trying to build what could potentially turn into a professional league as best they can. And I think it's little learning steps along the way. There's going to be plus points, there's going to be bad points, but I think we'll all come together to make it a better league all around. And it's already shown in the amount of international players who've decided to come and play over here. It's becoming more and more viable for a professional to come and play in England. It's a really good league that it's turning into. It's just got to be given a bit of time, I think. That's the problem with football. Everyone wants short term, but it's got to be given a bit of a running length, I think, to be able to prove what they can do.
Hopefully Chelsea ladies will be the complete opposite of the men's side in terms of short-termism, but I'll leave that one aside. We've got another video question from the G-Man to round out this segment.
I would love to know your all-time 11 women's football team.
That's a difficult one. Can it be any player?
Yeah.
Is it English or?
No, it can be any. From front to back.
We'll start from back to front.
Goal?
That's a difficult one.
Front to back to front, either way.
Hope. Solo.
Or the German keeper. Hope Solo?
Hope Solo.
Okay.
We'll go with Hope Solo at the back.
Right back, Alex Scott.
Scott.
Gilly Flaherty.
All time. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
It's a difficult one. There's some very good centre backs. We've got a right back. God, it's having to bring in other teams that really makes it difficult.
Give your all-time at England.
All right, shoot. Yeah. All right. We'll settle for that.
Otherwise, we're just a massive wide field of players to
Okay, now we just start again at the goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper. Karen Barsley.
Or Shiv.
Karen Barsley.
Okay. Okay, Alex Scott.
Alex Scott. Casey Stoney.
I know my left back. I'm just struggling with the centre back.
So who's your left back then?
Faye White.
Not left back.
No.
Centre back.
Centre back. Casey Stoney White.
Yeah.
And then left back.
Lucy Bronze. I think she's a great left back. Why? What do you say? I have to get a choice in some of these things. You've already decided the centre backs.
Let's go midfield. Rachel Yankee.
Yeah.
Jordan
definitely.
Nobbs. Jordan Nobbs.
Can we broaden it to the UK?
Yeah.
Kim Little.
What else would we bring? We'd have to have Kelly Smith, but Kelly Smith is like a wandering player, so
She can play wherever she wants.
yeah, she just floats wherever she wants to be. Ellen White,
Yeah.
Tony Duggan. What about Steph?
I think Alan and Tony. Where would Steph go? How many is that?
Left back.
Steph left back. Really? Okay, that's something we're going to have to disagree on.
Switch it.
I just think Lucy Bronze is very like Alex Scott in that she's got the legs on her to get forward as well. That's why. I think that's an 11, isn't it?
We've almost got there.
There's quite a few midfielders in there.
We just got, Kelly Smith just floats. She can be an attacker or a midfielder, so, or defender even, so we'll just go with that.
No, I hear that. In terms of the women's game, actually, what do you think is the best attribute for a fullback? Being able to get forward, or doing the defensive work first?
I think it's probably a bit of both. I mean, if you look at, say, Alex Scott, she's probably has been one of the best right backs in the world for a long time now. And she's played in America, she's played in England. She's very well respected, and she has both sides to a game. I mean, if you've watched her recently, she sometimes almost looks like a striker, the way she positions herself. I mean, she plays so far up the pitch, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, sometimes she's further up than some of the forwards.
But then when tracking back, and she can make the most awesome challenges as well.
She's so quick as well.
Yeah, it's speed. And the same with Lucy Bronze, the Liverpool right back in England, left back, centre back, right back, wherever they want to put her. She's got the speed on her as well, so she can make those darting runs up and also track back and make a really good challenge to stop.
In terms of centre backs, I think it's important that you have one very quick one and one maybe not so quick one, but that will make the tough challenges. Yeah. And I think sometimes you don't often have, if you don't have that quick one, it can be, So I think getting the combination between the two is really important.
I think especially with the pace of the front players in women's football generally, they're very, very quick and very, very skillful as well. So you do need someone to be able to, you can't have your traditional central defender who's a bit slow. You do need someone to partner up with them to be able to.
You saw that with Lincoln with Sophie Bradley and Casey Stoney. And Sophie Bradley was very, very fast and would make some last-ditch tackles right at the end, whereas Casey Stoney was such a solid player that she was very difficult to get through. But on the off chance when they did, Sophie Bradley was always there to pick up.
Well, the attacking are really fast, but they also, because they have such technical ability, you don't really see it in the men's game as much because it's so powerful and so quick. Whereas the women's, it's really broken down. So they've really worked on their skill set, haven't they?
They have to rely on different things, because men probably work a huge amount on strength and speed. Yeah. And if you're fast and kick it hard enough, you're probably going to get past people. Whereas with the women's game, that's not something they can completely rely on. Obviously, it's very important, but you need to have the skill to back it up to be able to get around people, because you can't just blast the ball the full length of the pitch. So yeah, it does differ, I think, slightly in women's football.